To manage tensions in the South China Sea, Philippines is committed to working with China after last week's clash that seriously injured a Filipino sailor, Manila's foreign minister said on Tuesday. China has disputed Philippines' account, with its foreign ministry saying that the actions taken by its Coast Guard were necessary, lawful and beyond reproach, as there had been no immediate response to a request to command on Tuesday by the Chinese embassy in Manila. All right, our correspondent Chris Gilbert is joining us from Tokyo to spell out more details. Chris, we've just told our viewers how Philippines is eyeing talks with China to manage tensions in the South China Sea. Let us get more from you on this proposal by Philippines, and do we know anything about how China has responded to it?
Well, China, first off the bat, is saying that Philippines is doing good cop, bad cop. It is accusing China, according to reports from Beijing, of provoking this extreme confrontation just over a week ago, where the Philippines is saying on its side of the story that Chinese Coast Guard personnel boarded Philippines Coast Guard vessels. There was an encounter with swords and knives. Quite heightened activity, considering that these encounters are usually at somewhat of a distance. There have been some vessels ramming each other and some hoses being sprayed on vessels in the past, but this is quite intense even for these two sides. And so the Beijing is saying that there are accusations coming from the Philippines, but at the same time the Philippines is saying it wants to reach out and talk, that it's a mixed message. Now, there are no details or signs as yet on whether there are actual talks that are going to take place, as an actual sit down at a table and have a meeting. But this is a gesture from the Foreign Affairs Department of the Philippines that they are looking to cool things down somewhat. And the US is saying that the Philippines' approach is very cautious, although the tone is not necessarily changing, which means the root issue, which is sovereignty in the South China Sea and parts of that water that the Philippines believe are its own, are still disputed and are still, it seems by all means, looking to be disputed. But it is language coming from the Philippines that they are looking to calm things down.
All right, Chris, now I would also want to understand from you about the significance of these talks if accepted by China, because these two countries launched consultative mechanism in 2017 for a peaceful management of conflicts in South China Sea. How would these talks be different, and how do you evaluate the caliber of the talks?
Yeah, well, experts say that China has drawn some very hard lines, and recent history has shown it doesn't really like to diverge from those hard lines. For example, its one China policy towards Taiwan and waters, which it claims as its own. The bigger picture here is, of course, not necessarily appeasing China, but finding a road to walk, a tightrope to walk, where trade can get through that area, where multiple countries, not just the Philippines but the Vietnam and others, feel as though they can operate freely. Their fishing vessels can operate freely. Their coast guards can operate freely, without necessarily being shadowed or harassed or coming into contact with not just the Chinese Coast Guard, but the expanding land presence of China as well in the Philippine Sea as it builds islands. Now, the US and the Philippines have exercises coming up, military exercises. They say they were pre-planned and they're not in response to this latest encounter between the two Coast Guards. However, they were planned in the context of these ongoing tensions in the region. So if there are talks, it has to take into consideration the status quo, which doesn't look to do a U-turn at any time, which is a clear declaration of sovereignty and ownership by the Philippines, a clear declaration of sovereignty and ownership by China, and then the US here on the Philippine side looking to steer its partner through, no pun intended, these rough waters.
All right, Chris, we'll leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details.